November the 20th, 2025. Welcome back to the Two Witnesses Live. I'm your host, Watchful, and it's that time once again for your daily Torment report. Probably a pretty short day, not a lot of posts, but some very interesting posts, and I have some videos that you might be interested in watching. We'll see how it goes, but let's get started and have a look at our guy over here on Truth Social, Donald Trump. Thank you, Mr. President, for your invitation and the warm welcome you and the First Lady gave me and my future wife. Each of us have something meaningful to give, and I stand ready to do my part as we inspire new generations to build a future defined by courage, responsibility, and lasting peace. I believe that's about where we left off yesterday. So, according to most, one of the best opening 10 months for a president in U.S. history. Thank you. He just can't help himself. You know, sometimes I don't know what to think about the way he talks about. I mean, like, he has every right to point it out, but I almost wonder if it's not one of the elements for why they torment those in the world is he keeps rubbing it in their face. You know what I mean? Like, he keeps rubbing this in their face. That's a big old ad. All right, here's Ronaldo is a great guy. Loved meeting him at the White House. Really smart and cool. President DJT. Video? Oh gosh, AI. Hilarious. Well, at least we know he's playing with AI. All right, why does ABC fake news keep Jimmy Kimmel, a man with no talent and very poor television ratings, on the air? Why do the TV syndicates put up with it? Also, totally biased coverage. Get the bum off the air. It's a good point. You know, you guys could be making a lot more money. I don't know. Maybe they're afraid to lose their audience, but it seems like with, you know, a drastically falling ratings, he's not funny. I can't watch him. I can't stand him. It's been like 2017 since I've been able to stomach the dude. I agree. Let's see. Truth Social. It's called seditious behavior at the highest level. Each one of the traitors to our country should be arrested and put on trial. Their words cannot be allowed to stand. We won't have a country anymore. An example must be set. What is this? Oh, yeah. This, I do have this loaded up over here. Refuse unspecified unlawful orders. A half dozen Democratic veterans in Congress released a joint video urging U.S. service members to disobey unlawful orders, though they did not specify what those would be. And as T-Supply pointed out a couple of days ago when we covered this, he played the 1.5-minute video of them saying to disobey unlawful orders. He had made a very interesting point and observation as a man who'd been in the military, that many times in almost all cases, you don't know if it was an unlawful order until the court-martial or until you're sitting in a trial for your actions. And he urged everyone to be very careful on what they determine to be an unlawful order. And the Trump administration is taking this head on, and their position is that everything that they're doing is by the book and lawful, which is a very good point because, at least from my perspective, with the information I'm allowed to see, it seems like he's doing things by the book and legally more so than his predecessor, right? I mean, like, he's a friend of the court because everything goes through the court to get their their approval. You know, it reminds me so much of that scripture. What is it? It's we were just reading it yesterday. It's right here. If anyone has an ear, let him hear. He who leads into captivity shall go into captivity. He who kills with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. You know, that phrase is right between the beast from the sea and the beast from the land. It's almost as if it's a warning of what you're going to be going through while you wait. And you know, I think about this all the time. Like, what does this mean? You know, especially when you're watching things like the Portland riots and the Chicago riots, and the way that these people are, if they're not paid, they're clearly possessed, to where they're in the face of normal people, just calling them all kinds of manners of terrible things. And a lot of the people that are causing the anarchy and the chaos are not stand-up examples of human beings. I mean, most of them, like, they seem to have an overwhelming desire to color their hair, for one. But you know, there a lot of them are in these cities like Portland, where you know, drugs and sex parties are a big thing, and that's the common report. I'm thinking of Chandler in Portland when we were covering the riots. Um, Several of the journalists who cover that said that that's their common behavior. Is, you know, they do their perverted parties, and then they go out and they protest and they get in the face of ICE as if they're standing up against injustice, when it's just like, these are not stand-up citizens. These are people who are perverted and have serious mental issues that need to be taken care of. But it reminds me of this right here, because when I watch that, it makes me I could see myself wanting to go down there, and like, I would never do this, but makes me want to beat the crap out of them. You know what I mean? Don't you feel like that, where you're like, just, you need to shut up? But I wouldn't do that. But this is what I think of. This comes to mind every time I get that feeling, is he who leads into captivity shall go into captivity. He who kills with the sword must be killed with the sword. To me, it sounds like, and I could be wrong about this, but this is what I'm constantly reminded of, is during this time, and I would argue during the Trump administration, during the time of the 1,260 days, be very careful what you do, because there's a chance that you will be held accountable for your actions, which wasn't true of the previous administration. You know, as we've seen by the people who were released 40 times, you know, they would beat somebody up, or steal, or you know, rape, or, you know, all kinds of manner of maliciousness, and then they'd be out on the street again. That's no longer the case. We're now enforcing the law. He who leads into captivity shall be he shall be captive. He who kills with the sword will be killed with the sword. Consequences, baby. That's what it seems like. All right, where were we? Not that post. Maybe here? Yeah. There you go. It's called seditious behavior at the highest level. Each one of these traitors to our country should be arrested and put on trial. Yes. If you were leading into captivity, you should be put in captivity. If you were killing with the sword, you should be killed with the sword. It gets worse. That's why I'm prepping you for his posts, because, you know, he's calling them out, and if this is truly seditious behavior as defined by the law, their words, and I agree with him here. I really do agree with him. These, you know, you might argue that if you've seen the video, I actually don't have the video prepped to play it. I wonder if it's in the article. Let's see. Let's continue reading and see if it's in the article. None of the Democrats in the video specified what illegal orders they should be concerned about, or what to do if they believe they are given one. We are standing by our troops. So this is quotes. We are standing by our troops, our service members, who are often put in very difficult positions, and Donald Trump has put them in very difficult positions, and has alluded to putting them in even more difficult positions in the months and years ahead. What a bunch of, okay, by difficult, do you mean by escorting the illegal immigrants and criminals out of our country? Yeah, that's difficult situations. If by difficult situations you mean calling down the National Guard, who answer to the governor in the state anyway, to come down and assist the police officers because they're overwhelmed by the riotous, anarchist, rebellious nature of the people who are left unchecked. How that seems like the governor should be doing that. And the fact that they're not doing it and leaving it up to the president to have to do it seems to be a problem. So this is what they're saying. So we are reminding folks about what the Uniform Code of the Military Justice says, what the Constitution says, what the law of war says, Crow said on Fox News on Wednesday afternoon. He cited President Donald Trump's musings during his first term about whether service members could shoot U.S. protesters in the leg. Ugh. His more recent decisions to send the National Guard into several U.S. cities to crack down on illegal activities and possibly sending U.S. troops to election polling stations. Donald Trump has made a series of very disturbing comments and suggestions that would violate U.S. law and put our military in a terrible position. Crow, a former Army Ranger, added, I don't want to wait until that happens to remind our troops that this obligation, because then it will be too late. Republicans push back. Republicans rebuke the Democrats' video. Senator Marsha Blackburn said on Fox, it is inconceivable that you would, do I have that on audio? I might actually have that on audio here. What was that from? That was from Princess Bride.
Inconceivable!
I love it.
Inconceivable!
It is inconceivable that you would have elected officials that are saying to uniformed members of our military who have taken an oath that they would defy the orders that they have been given to execute their mission. Similarly, War Secretary Pete Hegseth responded to the video on social media saying, Stage 4 Trump derangement syndrome. Interesting. Crow denied that they were referring to ongoing military operations in the Caribbean in the video. The military currently has its largest buildup of U.S. forces in the Western Hemisphere in decades. Since early September, the military has carried out roughly 20 lethal airstrikes on vessels they claim were carrying drugs intended for the United States, killing more than 80 people. The Justice Department Office of Legal Counsel found in July that the U.S. troops involved in the lethal targeting of alleged drug smuggling vessels would not be exposed to future prosecution. We got lawyers on lawyers, all the authorities necessary to do so, treating these terrorists like the Al-Qaeda of the Western Hemisphere, Hegseth said last week. Service members are required to follow lawful orders in accordance with the Uniform Code of Military Justice, and they can face prosecution for following unlawful orders. Right. I don't think anybody's disagreeing with that. Like, if you're given an unlawful order, if you're told to, shoot an innocent person, obviously to, disobey that order. But that's not the scenario here. That video that the Democrats put out that was a minute long was ambiguous and inferred to disobey Trump because, he's wanting to send the National Guard down to Portland or Chicago or something like that. The precedent of whether a service member can face charges for following an illegal order came out of the trial of Lieutenant William Calley, who participated in the March 1968 slaughter of hundreds of Vietnamese individuals known as the My Lai Massacre. Calley took the stand in his own case, stating that his superior captain, Ernest Medina, who was later court-martialed and ultimately acquitted, had directed him to kill everyone in the village. Yikes. Calley's defense team got the defense idea from the Nuremberg trials of captured Nazis following World War II. Yeah. Okay. The facts of the story are truly disgusting. Okay, that's a different story. There we go. It's called seditious behavior at the highest level. Each one of these traitors to our country should be arrested and put on trial. Their words cannot be allowed to stand. All right. Why aren't they under arrest for sedition? So this is a retruth from Katie Good, KQ, whoever that is. Thrown out of their office. Enough is enough. It's called seditious conspiracy, and every one of them should should be frog marched out of their homes at 3 a.m. Yeah, like they did to Republicans for the last 4 years, previous 4 years. Fox News cameras filming the whole thing. I think they should be charged with sedition. Also, save those tapes and run them when the next uh, demo commie is in office. Okay. Domestic terrorists, Democrats, always causing chaos and destruction, destroying people's lives. Anything these traitors disagree with is what they consider an illegal order, and that's the point. And I think most people understand that. The underlying message is that they're suggesting to disobey the orders that they disagree with, whether they're legal or not. They are all a disgrace to their uniforms, and they can be brought to justice under UCMJ, get busted down, or dishonorably discharged and lose their career and benefits. Step right into that pile. That's the ticket. If they don't follow orders, they should be fired. These are all retruths from Trump. The Dems are getting closer and closer to being on their way out. All right. Those Democrat veterans took the same oath I did to defend this country from domestic enemies. It's a lifetime commitment. What should they do? What should the American people do when the domestic enemy is them? Al-Qaeda is a foreign enemy who declared war on this nation on 9/11/2001. They've never sued for peace. So when Obama was giving aid to Al-Qaeda, Libyan rebels in Benghazi, and the veteran Democrat Congress members were part of that cover-up, it's no wonder they are now asking members of our military to commit treason on their behalf. Yay. Traitors, replying to the Washington, hang them George Washington would. Unlawful is the key word, folks. Unlawful. Yeah. Yep. Indict all of them. Sedition. Insurrection, treason. I think he's making a point here. Get the people out of office. They aren't doing their jobs. They are looking for ways to be rebels and take others with them. They need to go. Democratic veterans in Congress. Yeah, so this is what we just read. This is really bad and dangerous to our country. Their words cannot be allowed to stand. Seditious behavior from traitors. Lock them up. President DJT. Seditious behavior punishable by death. Yikes. And then this is in regards to Summers, who he left. He's been resigning from his different positions since the Jeffrey Epstein files were signed to be released. As Summers sought clandestine relationships with women he called a mentee, Epstein was his wingman. When former Harvard President Lawrence H. Summers was pursuing a romantic relationship with a woman he described as a mentee, he turned to a longtime associate for guidance. Ugh, disgusting. All right, that's all we got for Trump today. But, I mean, that's kind of big news, right? I mean, like, he was clearly pissed about that video. Which I'm surprised it took several days for him to actually see it. But, I guess he is busy, with Saudi Arabia, mending relationships with Elon Musk, doing deals with NVIDIA. Guy is kind of busy. Let's see. Let's catch up on some comments here. A group of kids in Chicago targeted a mom and her child and beat them so badly they're in the hospital. Oh, man. Dearborn, Michigan has fallen, and Muslims beat Christians. I saw that. Police won't arrest them. Trump called Dems post seditious and punishable by D, but White House walked it back. They did? They walked it back? I am exhausted tonight. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to try and actually keep it night. I don't think we're going to do a study like we did last night. I'm not happy with the way that went. I'm happy with logos.com. I think that's okay, but I tried sharing the slides and the documents that I wanted to illustrate Revelation 1, and the software is just not working properly. None of the links or the notes show up to the group. Doesn't matter what level you are. So I guess I'm going to have to keep working on that. So tonight we're probably going to keep it short. Just do cover Donald, just a torment report, and maybe watch a video or so, and then we'll call it good. So probably hour and a half. Definitely insurrection underway, and Trump is livid. Yeah, you can say that again. Y'all don't forget, hit the like button. I should read these before I read them out loud. Oh man, more stuff in Chicago. Alrighty, cool. Let us move on to Elon Musk. Alrighty, so we left off. Imagine the thing you choose to critique Elon Musk is on his work ethic. Yeah, any school teacher has more ethic in their pinky finger than Elon Musk has in his entire body. Make billionaires pay their fair share. So this is his response. Imagine the thing you choose to critique Elon Musk on, his work ethic. Works 80 to 120 hours per week during peak periods. I'd argue he works more than that because he said that he works 7 days a week. Doesn't really, as far as I understand, he doesn't really take much time off. But you see him constantly in interviews, constantly posting on X, and he's running multiple companies. Uh, yeah. I mean, maybe that's what his stated hours are per week, 80 to 120 hours. It is a lot. Let's see, jobs created, direct plus supply chain, 600,000. Salaries paid out by his company, 110 billion. Wow. Taxes he paid in just 2021, 11 billion, largest tax bill for an individual in history. And the thing about that is he did not have to pay it. Because of the way he draws his money and his salary, he doesn't have to pay taxes. He takes advantage, just like anyone else would, of all the write-offs and loopholes that he possibly can to not have to pay. But if you remember, people were making such a big deal about it that he cashed out $11 billion in his shares in order to pay taxes just to, I don't know, have the title of the largest tax bill for an individual in history. Who knows why he did it, but he didn't need to. Value created for shareholders, trillions, drives hundreds of billions in economic impact, brought human spaceflight back to America with SpaceX, helps paralyzed patients control computers with their thoughts, giving new meaning to their lives. True. Created Starlink, enabling people to access the internet anywhere. Elon's wealth increases because his companies build products and services that people love. Companies that generate hundreds of billions of dollars in economic value in the U.S. and around the world. He isn't buying yachts, expensive houses, or cars. He is continuously pushing his chips into the middle of the table and creating companies that are changing the world. His wealth is tied up in those companies, thus, he only pays big tax bills when he sells stocks, which is rare. Yeah. So, people who criticize that just goes to show you what kind of people they are. Let's see. There are two kinds of poverty, absolute and relative. Elon is right that we can solve absolute poverty. In fact, we largely already have, especially in the developed world. So the red is, what is that? The red is number of people living in extreme poverty, number of people not in extreme poverty. So it's been going down. Sorry. Got a little bit of sniffle if you can't tell. XAI just really, more XAI stuff. I think that's an ad. More XAI. Some posts from his, from the boys. I think we saw that yesterday. Grok 420 upgrade, which is a major improvement. Might be ready by Christmas. He tries to fit that in anywhere he can. 420. Just like Trump, he's a troll. This is somebody raving about how good the programming is with Grok 4.1. Too long didn't read why XAI is the place for free thinkers, as my recent encounter with another frontier lab demonstrated. I recently gave birth to my baby boy, and even though I'm taking a break to focus on motherhood, an opportunity at one of the major frontier labs came knocking on my door. I didn't end up joining, as detailed below. Why am I reading this? That's too long. Let's not read that. I think that's just somebody raving about working at XAI and why it's different. If I read this, I'm going to want to go work there. if I go work there, you guys may not see me anymore. I love solving problems, man. You put me into a situation to solve problems. That's my gig. That's what I love doing. Let's see. Shadow Killer by M.K. Sharma is the first book from. Oh, that's an ad. Dang ads. Everybody's doing it now. Everybody's making them look like posts. It's the ticket. Proof Rock MB1 has shipped from Bastrop to Nashville and is currently being assembled. Okay. More Grok stuff. Breaking has been revealed. Millions of taxpayer dollars were laundered through Minnesota autism clinics to Al-Shabaab terrorist group. Ooh, that's interesting. Elon reposted that just 3 hours ago. It has been revealed that millions of taxpayer dollars were laundered through autism clinics. Doesn't surprise me. Corruption being revealed. China is the majority electricity growth on Earth. 3/4 of new supply is solar. That's the case in China, in the U.S., basically everywhere. Oh, yeah, China is definitely increasing their usage. Starlink energy for the win. All right, that's it. That's what we got for Elon. You know, a couple of things, still enough to be considered, posting truth. If anything, even just that. Yeah. That's all we got. Oh, poverty. This is a good point. Poverty can and will be eliminated, but envy. Oh, that's a good line. Poverty can and will be eliminated, but envy is eternal. I don't know if it's eternal. I'm of the opinion that that's being taken care of and sealed up. It's the whole point of these end times is envy. I believe envy is part of sin. That's part of the old man nature, the sin nature. Yeah. Let's see. I hear ya. Let's see. Headlines. All right. Well, that's all I got. We've been at it for 30 minutes. We got some time, I think, to watch some videos. So let's go. I've been thinking about this. So I asked my wife this question just an hour ago. What do you think of when you read in Revelation? What is it? Where were we reading yesterday? The sign of the Son of Man in the clouds. Matthew 24. Yeah. Um, oh, you know where it was? It was Revelation 6, I think. Yeah, let's do this. Let's look at Revelation 6. Seal number 6, because both the video from Avi Loeb, is that his name? Yeah, Avi Loeb, and the one from Tim Pool both deal, I think, with this same period of time. Down here, seal number 6. So we've got seal number 5. Here, let me show you this. So this is one of the possible timelines. So you've got this one here, which is based on a 14-year timeline, and really focuses primarily on the left side And the reason for the reason that's patterned on the right side is because of the mirror image. But we also have this one, which is a more symmetrical timeline. So the one on the left, so the blue, the red, and the green here. I don't know if can you guys see? Yeah. So this blue one here, this one here, and this one. So this is seal number 1. This is December 26, 2019. That's when COVID pandemic started. This was an eclipse on December 14th, 2020. This was when Joe Biden was elected president, or they declared that he was president. And this was also the same day that Operation Warp Speed was handed over, and the first day they started giving out the vaccine, probably seal number 2. Seal number 3, June 10th. This was another eclipse. But if you notice, there's day counts between these. So 353 days between seal 1 and seal 2. 176 days between seal 2 and seal 3, and then 856 days between seal 3 and the October 7th Al-Aqsa flood. And then, which actually, no, that's to October 14th, I think, is the middle date. Yeah, October 14th, because there was an eclipse on that day. That was Operation Iron Sword, when Israel responded to Hamas going back in to rescue the hostages. So if you take, so it just so happens that 856 days from October 14th, there's another eclipse. So this would be a mirror image of this eclipse. And the reason I tell you that is you have seal 1, 2, 3, and 4. This is very likely seal number 5. So this would be February 17th, 2026. There's an annular solar eclipse, and then not too long after that. So because there was only 176 days between seal 2 and 3, it stands to reason that this eclipse right here, which just so happens to be 176 days between this eclipse and this eclipse, could be seal number 6. So the reason I bring these, I really wanted to point these two out because these are really, I believe that this evidence indicates that these could be the days when the seals 5 and 6 are opened. So let's read about seal number 5, and then we'll read about seal number 6. Can I make this bigger? Pretty sure there's like a full screen view. There you go. When he opened the 5th seal, I saw under the altar the souls of those who had been slain, for the word of the Lord and for the testimony which they held. And they cried with a loud voice, saying, How long, O Lord, holy and true, until you judge and avenge our blood on those who dwell on the earth? This could be February 17th, 2026. Like, we're not that far away from that, right? I mean, like, it's November right now. That's like 4 months. This could be happening in 4 months. I know, I don't know about you, but I know pretty much everybody who's looking for the return of Christ is done with everything that's been going on. We are so impatient. Everybody, that's why so many people are looking for the rapture. People are eager for him to return. But so this, though, is talking about the souls under the altar. I don't know what that means. I mean, we could do a study on Are the Dead Alive Now? I don't know if this is figurative as as a representation for the impatience of the saints, because we're called to be patient time and time again. I don't know if this is an analogy for the saints to be patient, or if this is quite literally talking about those who have died, if their consciousness isn't awake somewhere under the altar, and they're not literally saying, how long, O Lord, holy and true, until you judge and avenge our blood on those who dwell on the earth? I don't know the answer to that. I'm inclined to think that this is a representation of everybody being impatient. Then a white robe was given to each of them. So I was looking at this earlier today. There's not a whole lot of, I mean, there's a lot on clothes in the Bible. There's black robes, there's robes of many color, there's black sackcloth, there's sackcloth. The best I can gather is this is just a robe of righteousness. So then a robe was given to each one of them. I don't know if this is saying that this is the time when they're like fully cleansed or something. I don't know what it is. It's interesting to think about though, because when Adam and Eve fell, after the curse was declared, then God made for them coats of skin. So is this like the opposite of a coat of skin, right? So was the coat of skin, animal skin, a temporary thing? So is this white robe indicative of like, is it either a preparation for the rapture, the resurrection, or is it, part of the redemption? I'm inclined to think it's part of the redemption, right? Because white being pure, righteous, clean, really what white tends to imply is clean. Even the rider on the white horse, with it being the beginning of a pandemic, when you think about like a hospital or something like that, white is indicative of cleanliness and sterility. So then a white robe was given to each of them, and it was said to them that they should rest a little while longer until both the number of their fellow servant and their brethren who would be killed as they were was completed. So does this mean, so if this timeline is right, the wait a little longer, does that a little longer mean 176 days? That's a possibility, because this mirrors seal 5, 6, and 7 here, mirror seal 3, 2, and 1, like numerically mirror. So like you got 856 days here, 856 days here. You got 176 days here, 176 days here. You've got 363 days here. You got 365 days here, which you can normalize. They're close enough together to where you could say, yeah, that's a pretty darn close mirror image. So yeah, I mean, we could be 4 months away from this, and then that little while longer could only be 176 days. And then you've got seal number 6. And I'm going to read this, and then we're going to watch this video from Avi Loeb and Tim Pool. So Tim Pool is more directly relating to the cosmic disturbances, as it calls it here, where Avi Loeb is more in regards to then they will see the sign of the Son of Man appear in the clouds. So here it says, I looked when he opened the 6th seal, and behold, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became like blood, and the stars of heaven fell to the earth, as a fig tree drops its late figs when it is shaken by the mighty wind. Then the sky receded as a scroll when it is rolled up, and every mountain and island was moved out of its place. And the kings of the earth, the great men, the rich men, the commanders, the mighty men, every slave, every free man, hid themselves in the caves and in the rocks of the mountains, and said to the mountains and the rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of him who sits on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of his wrath has come. Who is able to stand? So, and then that, I believe, is a parallel to Matthew 24. Where immediately after the tribulation, so immediately after the tribulation of those days, so like that could be like seal number 5 could be the last period of tribulation of those days. The sun will be darkened, the moon will not give its light, the stars will fall from heaven, and the powers of heaven will be shaken. Then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven, and then all the tribes of the earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. This right here, I wonder if this isn't what Three Eye Atlas is. I'm wondering, because that was when I was talking to my wife, like, what would a sign of a Son of Man be? And, my first inclination was, a spaceship just showing up above our city. But not everybody sees that. So it would have to be further out. So it would have to be something like the moon, where, a lot of people on the earth can be looking at the same moon at the same time. And then I got to thinking maybe something like Three Eye Atlas, right? Because the whole world is looking at Three Eye Atlas. And right now they're wondering, is this alien? Is this a spaceship? Because, and we're going to listen to Avi Loeb talk about this, because it's not behaving like a meteorite, even though, yeah, NASA lied. I'm pretty sure NASA lied, especially when you listen to Avi Loeb. Is that the sign of the Son of Man? And all it has to do is do some more stuff that's not normal, and pretty much everybody's going to be in agreement. We're right now speculating, and it could just be a conspiracy theory, but we're currently speculating this thing could be representative of life of some kind. So imagine if that thing gets closer, that could be a sign of a son of man. So that could be indicative. Son of man is just a phrase that means human, a sign of human of life. You could almost reduce that down to a sign of life coming on the clouds. Or the sign of the Son of Man coming on the clouds. So like Jesus coming in a craft of some kind could be that sign. And with that in your mind, I want to go watch this Avi Loeb video.
Everything we thought we knew about our place in the cosmos is wrong. Did you know that in our galaxy alone, there are billions of planets, yet we operate as if we are the only intelligent life? But what if we just got a visitor that proves we are not? I'm Avi Loeb, and I want to talk about something that fundamentally challenges our assumptions. I remember the first time I heard the name 3i divided by Atlas. It sounded poetic, almost mythical, until I realized what it truly meant. Somewhere beyond the faint whispers of our solar system, a colossal object was gliding silently toward us. It wasn't just another rocket drift in space. It was something far greater, something that seemed to have intention. Astronomers around the world watched in disbelief as the first images appeared on their screens, a luminous mass moving with mathematical precision, tracing a trajectory so perfect it looked less like the product of chance and more like the handwriting of intelligence itself.
Less like the product of chance and more like the handwriting of intelligence. Sign of the Son of Man.
Even the most skeptical scientists could feel it. This was no ordinary visitor. At first, it was treated as a curiosity, a rare interstellar traveler like the ones we've seen before. But within days, the data began to defy reason. The object was huge. Estimates ranged from 6 to 9 miles in diameter.
So if something that big showed up in just above your city, it would visibility would be limited to your city. But if something like that appeared between, say, here and the moon, most of the world, I think, would see it, especially over the course of a 24-hour period of time.
The size of Manhattan Island, its surface shimmered with a metallic sheen that no telescope could quite classify, and its speed more than 130,000 miles per hour. At that velocity, it could cross from New York to Los Angeles in just over a minute.
Wow.
The human mind struggles to grasp such numbers, but we all knew one thing: nothing moves like that unless it's meant to. NASA's early reports confirmed what everyone secretly feared. 3i divided by Atlas wasn't bound by the sun's gravity. It wasn't following a random parabolic curve or a typical comet's arc. It was cutting through the solar system as if following a map. The gravitational pull of the sun should have altered its path, slowed it, captured it even, but it didn't. It continued forward, steady, untouched. This is a critical failure of conventional models. When data does not fit the hypothesis must be questioned. We see this with comets all the time. They outgas, creating a rocket effect that pushes them. But 3i divided by Atlas showed no coma, no tail, no outgassing, yet it was accelerating, or rather not decelerating as it should. That's when the whispers began. What if it wasn't being guided by gravity, but by control? As the days turned into...
Yeah, and that's one of the big things that a lot of people are speculating on, is the behavior of it implies that this is not something that's like a typical meteorite that is affected by gravity. And he made that point about when it passed by the sun, it should have slowed down, but it didn't.
Nights of endless observation, the theories piled up. Some said it might have passed near a black hole, gaining velocity through a gravitational slingshot. Others thought it could be made of exotic matter, something beyond our physics. But none of these explanations survived long under scrutiny. The precision of its movement was too deliberate. There were no deviations, no random wobbles, no fragments breaking away like you'd expect from a comet or asteroid. It was as if every microsecond of its motion had been planned long before it entered our neighborhood. That's when my own work resurfaced. The Harvard astrophysicist who years ago dared to suggest that Oumuamua, the first non-interstellar object, might not be natural. My theory had once been dismissed as fringe speculation, but now with 3i divided by Atlas, those same scientists began quoting me because what else could explain an object of this scale moving with this level of control? When I, Avi Loeb, looked at the orbital projections, I couldn't help but feel an unease deep in my chest. The line that represented 3i divided by Atlas wasn't chaotic like the paths of comets. It was clean, elegant, like the brushstroke of a master painter. It would pass near Mars, then Earth, then Venus, and finally brush past Jupiter before fading into the cold. 4 planets, 4 opportunities for observation. The sequence was perfect. Too perfect. Statistically, the odds of a natural object following such a route are less than 1 in 20,000. That means if 20,000 interstellar visitors crossed our solar system, only one might by pure coincidence take a similar course. And that one was here right now approaching us. The implications were impossible to ignore. This wasn't a rock on autopilot. This was reconnaissance. Each night, as we pointed our telescopes toward the heavens, we discovered new layers of strangeness. Its luminosity didn't fluctuate like a tumbling body reflecting sunlight. Instead, it pulsed softly, rhythmically, almost like a heartbeat, a pattern that repeated every 47 seconds. The signal wasn't strong enough to be called a transmission, but it was unmistakable. Something on 3i divided by Atlas was active, still, the scientific community fractured.
You know, the way he keeps saying 3i divided by Atlas, I wonder if this isn't AI. I thought initially I thought it was like jump cuts. And I assume that this was his, but this could be Avi Loeb's space. This could be somebody using his likeness with this script. I mean, it falls in line with everything I've heard.
Some insisted it was all coincidence that
There's actually things he's not covering that are even more convincing. NASA had announced that one of the things that they are able to say is that it's producing water vapor, and they're not entirely sure why, things like that.
We were projecting our fears and fantasies onto a chunk of cosmic debris. Others, like myself, urged us to open our minds. If you hear hoofbeats in the desert, I've always said don't always assume it's a horse. Sometimes it's something we've never seen before. What frightened me most wasn't its presence, it was its timing. 3i divided by Atlas had entered the inner solar system at the exact moment our telescopes, our sensors, and our data networks were capable of detecting it. A century ago, it would have passed unnoticed. A millennium ago, we would have called it a myth. But today, when our civilization finally had the eyes to see, it appeared. Coincidence or choreography? The closer it came, the more its trajectory seemed intentional. The arc past Mars was gentle, grazing the planet's orbit within 17 million.
I mean, it could be AI. He could just be using what's called a Heygen clone, which Heygen. I tried doing a clone of myself. You may have seen some of those videos early on in January where I was trying to be able to write, edit scripts, and then have the AI read them for me so that I could produce the content more quickly and consistently. And I didn't really like the clone, but to be honest, I didn't put the effort into it that I should have. I just did like the 30-minute preparation for the clone. What Julie McCoy had said is that you really need to do their professional version of the clone, because that's the one she uses that is a lot more lifelike. I have a feeling this here is done on the same level of quality that mine did, because it has the same kind of mannerisms, to where it like bobs his head and stuff like that. But he may just, this may be Avi Loeb's channel, and he may be using HeyGen AI to generate a clone, but it may be his script, because it does sound like, I haven't heard anything that's a red flag. Everything he's saying, it sounds like what I've heard so far from many other sources.
Miles. Then came its approach toward Earth, 167 million miles away, at a position perfectly hidden behind the Sunday. When it reached its point of closest approach, Earth would be on the opposite side of the solar disk, making direct observation nearly impossible, as if it had chosen its timing specifically to stay out of sight. For the first time, I felt something that science rarely admits: fear. Not the fear of the unknown, but of the known that we refuse to acknowledge. Because if this was a probe, a device engineered to travel through interstellar space, then it meant we were not alone. And we never had been. I watched as NASA's analysts simulated its movement using high-precision orbital data. Frame by frame, they mapped the angles, the velocity changes, the micro variations in light reflection, and there it was again: consistency. Every adjustment perfectly matched the trajectory, designed for maximum efficiency, conserving energy, maintaining line of sight to key planets. It was quite literally behaving like a machine. By then, even the skeptics grew quiet. A Harvard press briefing leaked an internal paper stating, 3I divided by Atlas demonstrates behavior inconsistent with non-natural phenomena. Artificial propulsion cannot be ruled out. It was the kind of sentence that could shake the world if spoken aloud. I remember staring at the holographic projection of its path. A glowing line weaving through the orbits of the planets like a silent observer. The data didn't lie. This thing had purpose. It wasn't just passing through. It was watching. Then came the real shock. Simulations suggested that after its pass near Jupiter, 3I divided by Atlas wouldn't escape the solar system at all. Instead, it would slow down as if applying invisible brakes and enter a stable orbit around the Sun somewhere between Jupiter and Mars. That orbit would allow it a continuous, unobstructed view of Earth, a perfect vantage point. I tried to explain to my students that such precision was beyond any gravitational accident. To slow an object of that mass from interstellar velocity to a solar orbit would require unimaginable energy. Energy that no known natural process could supply. To achieve it, you'd need control, engineering, and purpose. It's possible, of course, that all of this is still coincidence. Science must remain skeptical. But I've learned that skepticism can sometimes become its own form of blindness. Because if my hypothesis is right, if 3I divided by Atlas was launched from another star system, then it left its home 8,000 years ago. That's around the same time our ancestors were first learning to build cities, to cultivate the earth, to carve their symbols into clay. While humanity was discovering fire and language, someone else far away might have already known of us. And that realization chills me to the core, because if they knew, if they saw the faint glow of our fires across the void, then they've been watching for millennia. 3I divided by Atlas would not be the beginning. It would be the return. That brings us to the most haunting possibility of all, the dark forest hypothesis. It's an idea that turns our cosmic optimism into existential dread. Imagine the universe not as an open field of friendship, but as a dense forest at night. Every civilization is a hunter. Every shadow hides another consciousness, listening, waiting. The only rule is silence, because the moment you reveal your position, you risk everything. Speak and you could be found and you could be erased. What if 3, I divided by Atlas, is not here to communicate, but to confirm, to determine whether the noise we've made, our radio waves, our probes, our endless broadcasts of hello into the void, has marked us as a target? Humanity in its innocence might have done the one thing.
Anyway, I think you get the point. This is kind of the common thing that I've heard, even though so NASA came out and they said they think it's a meteor. I don't think it's a meteor, based on the scientists that I have listened to. And there's so much mystery around it with, why did NASA go quiet for 40 days? I mean, they used the government shutdown as an excuse, but coincidence, I don't know if I necessarily believe in coincidence, especially when it involves these kind of things. Um and also the other thing is people think that when they think about like Jesus, or when they think about the creator of the heavens and the earth, they think that like they think that there's a lot of snapping the fingers to make things happen. I don't think that they're really thinking about the logistics when we make those assumptions, and I'm guilty of those assumptions too. What I think makes more sense is when you observe the creator of the heavens and the earth, he's a God who is subject to time. He hung the sun, moon, and stars in the solar system, put them in order, set them for signs, seasons, days, for years, and has waited for events to occur throughout the centuries. Clearly he doesn't want to just snap his fingers and make things happen. He wants things to happen. He's a God of order, a God of time, a God of the circular nature of the way he set things. There's a system to creation, and I believe that's why Jesus had to go away. He was resurrected, and then he was seated at the right hand of the Father. I personally believe that he is still alive in that same body, but like Elijah, he was swept away. So why not why not catch a ride on a spaceship and then go somewhere else in the universe for 2,000 years while they wait for the earth and for those who are destined to be born, to be born, to be born. And now that time has occurred, that those whose names are written in the Lamb's book of life have been born and lived. Why not come and get them? I think of the parable of the virgins. We should read this real quick. Then the kingdom of heaven shall be likened to 10 virgins who took their lamps and went out to meet the bridegroom. Now 5 of them were wise and 5 were foolish. Those who were foolish took their lamps and took no oil with them. But the wise took oil in their vessels with their lamps. But while the bridegroom delayed, they all slumbered and slept. So I think today I was thinking about this, and I was also thinking about, the same thing happened when Moses went up into the mountain. The children of Israel at the bottom of the mountain got impatient, and they ended up, what did they do when they were impatient? They made a golden calf and said, "This is your God." It's just like people do stupid things when they're waiting. So, but anyway, if we're seeing the sign of the Son of Man, let's just assume that three eye divided by Atlas, three eye Atlas is, some kind of a vessel, and maybe Yeshua is on that vessel. That could explain why the bridegroom could be delayed. Maybe maybe they're waiting for certain events to take place before he comes. And I mean, like, because there's certain things in the scripture which are given specific day counts. I mean, he may be circling the universe for who knows how long. It could be till February. It could be until August. You know what I mean? But while the bridegroom delayed, they all slumbered and slept. And at midnight a cry was heard, "Behold, the bridegroom is coming, go out and meet him." Then all those virgins arose and trimmed their lamps, and the foolish said to the wise, "Give us some of your oil, for our lamps are going out." But the wise answered, saying, "No, lest there should not be enough for us and you, but go rather to those who sell and buy for yourselves." And while they went to buy, the bridegroom came, and those who were ready went with him into the wedding. And the door was shut, And afterward, the other virgins came also saying, Lord, Lord, open to us. But he answered and said, assuredly, I say to you, I do not know you. Watch therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour in which the Son of Man is coming. Sounds kind of like a Noah's Ark situation to me. Like, maybe Three Eye Atlas finally decides that maybe God gives him the cue and says, okay, to go get your bride. And then he comes to earth, and then those who are ready are caught up. Sounds reasonable, right? Because the timing of it all, look at this. Seal number 5, right there. So you're waiting. You got to wait just a little bit longer. Is this a delay here for 176 days, and then you're caught up together? Maybe you go into some kind of an arc, and then seal number 6 hits. So let's talk about seal number 6. Let's watch this video from Tim. This is based on another. So this is based. I think this is one. Pole shift could. Yeah. So this is the simulation one. So Tim did a video based on a simulation that Ben Davidson released about what the pole shift will do to the earth. And, it lines up with Matthew 24 and seal number 6 with the mountains moving out of their place, the sky rolling up, stuff like that.
We facing a once in a 6,000 year mass.
Let me change this over here. There you go.
Extinction event. Well, some say it's a bit conspiratorial, alarmist, or just the sky is falling out, nothing's happening. But we just recently saw this massive solar storm, which resulted in auroras being blasted over the lower 48. It's a rare occurrence. Of 10 major events that occurred in the last 100 years where you could see an aurora from Texas, 5 of them occurred in the last 2 years. We have seen the record strongest storm. They just confirmed this. That was it Hurricane Melissa, I think it was called. The highest wind speeds ever recorded. And certainly some on the left would scream climate change, but they've sort of dropped that one off and no one's really talking about it. Now, I will admit, I have no real reason to believe the end is nigh or anything like that. I can only really say that these are interesting subjects.
I have a lot of reason. I have the data. I have the receipts. If you're interested, Tim, let me know.
And it's fun to talk about. I'm going to carry on with my life like normal and not expect the world to end. But we have seen strange things happen. Issues with satellites, the expanding South Atlantic anomaly, a dent in the magnetic field the size of Europe. Wow. Cell networks going down rapidly. And as I mentioned, these massive auroras. Ben Davidson, who is the space weather guy, has been tracking this. And he has a new simulation he just posted showing the tsunamis that will hit should the poles flip. We're all going to die. I mean, he's really predicting this. And we've got this story from Lad Bible. Expert issues terrifying warning as he claims Earth is facing a once in a 6,000 year mass extinction. Now, you may be saying to me, Tim, if this were true, why wouldn't they go and tell everybody? Okay, let me give you an entertaining hypothesis. I want to stress again, live your life like normal. This is, you want to work, you want to save, you want to prepare for the worst. If the apocalypse happens, well, it's been a fun ride, hasn't it? You're not going to survive, or maybe you will, but here's the point. With the climate change narrative, they highlight weather phenomenon that seems rare or unusual. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's literally just weather. But there are weird things, anomalous things, and record-breaking wind speeds. Now, why the climate change narrative? This allows government to refocus industry in a direction where people, they're not going to throw their lives away and go head for the mountains, but they will start building new technology. Let me put it like this. The theories from Ben Davidson are that, and I'm probably going to get a bit of what he's saying wrong, the axis is going to shift. When the poles reverse, it's going to weaken the magnetosphere. We're going to get blasted by solar activity, be sent to the Stone Age. And if the poles shift, there'll be an axis tilt. And that explains a lot about why Antarctica is the way it is, with a giant landmass with ice on it. Potentially why there are glaciers in Indonesia and even in Africa. Well, that could just be from the glacial period. The planet was much colder. But also why the mammoths found up north have undigested plant matter in their bellies. None of it's true, just entertaining. But here's a thought, because it's fun. If you were the government and you were told by your experts, the poles are going to flip, the axis will tilt, north becomes south, east becomes west, whatever. There's going to be great tsunamis that wipe out critical infrastructure across the planet. What technology would you want? Well, you'd want deep underground military bases in key areas that are elevated that wouldn't be hit by any kind of tsunami should the earth flip. But what about transmission lines, electricity? How will you generate enough power to restore civilization should everything get wiped out? Now, of course, oil and gas will always be the best for energy return on energy invested. In the short term, nuclear is probably better. And fusion, whew, that's fantastic. But hold on. You're going to want solar, wind, water, etc. It's an excellent point made in the show Landman, where Billy Bob brings this liberal lawyer to a wind farm. And she says, cutting into your profits? And he goes, no. And she said, she called it green energy. He goes, it's not green, it's alternative. The wind farms are put out here because you can't get transmission lines to power the pumps. The purpose of the wind turbine is so that they can get electricity to pump oil and use the oil for energy. It's an amazing point, but it's true. If the world were to end with this great flood, and you were a government seeking to preserve, you would want wind farms, particularly ones in water, less likely to be affected by a tsunami. Then, after the Great Flood period, you will still have access to electricity, which can kickstart oil drilling and pumping. Instead of having to start from scratch and rebuild industry with your bare hands, you'll have a kickstart. That's the plan, right? Maybe that's reality, maybe it's not. But I want to play this video for you. I want to show you what Ben Davidson is predicting. Before we do, however, my friends, we do have a great sponsor. It is, you know it, Backyard Butchers. I'm a big fan. I love good, clean meat, he calls it. It's interesting. It's fun. It's got spooky music. But I want to tell you this, my friends. There's something called the Adam and Eve theory. This is that every 6,000 years, the axis will flip, causing great tsunamis, which destroy civilization. Some say it's connected to the Great Mud Flood theory. Interestingly, the mud flood theory is connected to the story of Noah's Ark, that a great flood occurred. I wonder. Some of you may believe it's divine providence, the word of the Lord, and by all means, I'm not telling you not to believe that Noah was sent a message. The earth would be flooded. Build a great ark with 2 of every animal. It wasn't literally every animal on the planet. Perhaps it was just 2 of every natural livestock that they needed at the time. And he built a big boat. Some believe that this ark is actually in Turkey. What if what really happened? What if he started seeing the signs in the sky, the auroras, strange phenomenon, strange weather patterns were affecting, and some people just said, I don't know. And he said, it's a sign something's going to happen. So he started building an ark, a big boat, and the story is passed down. What if civilization was actually substantially more developed, and he and a crew and a team with industrial prowess built a large boat, and everyone told him he was crazy? I mean, let's be real. What if you started building a gigantic boat right now, and you said, I got to load up a bunch of animals on it? They'd be like, you're nuts. They made that movie, Evan Almighty. They'd call you nuts. They say Ben Davidson is wrong, and it's alarmism. Why? This is the point I was making early on when I said they'd want wind turbines. If they told everybody the end was nigh, people would panic, quit their jobs, and go for the mountains. Mm-hmm. But they need you to do work so you can build the resources, the deep underground military bases that have been reported. They're building them. We know they are. Now, the bigger, crazy $21 trillion ones, I don't know, but we know wealthy people are building underground bunkers.
It's a fact.
Let me show you this video. It's got intense music, so we'll keep it a little quiet. A simulation of the expected 2040s deluge tsunamis in the crustal tilt scenario advocated by Ben Davidson. Creator is Juno, using the GCR by Ben Davidson, the model. Internal wave only, no slosh. He's playing the video, and you can see this. Check this out. I'll let it play. You can see the entire eastern coast of the U.S. is flooded. You can see South America is gone. That's wild. He's going to give us a different view of these things. There's the United States. The flood happens. Take a look at that. Let me pause right now. So we're looking at, hey, there's Appalachia. We're going to be okay, huh? Surrounded by water with no access to food? I'm not so sure. Florida is gone. South Carolina, Georgia, Mississippi, everything flooded and wiped out. Look at that. And then what? Do the waters recede? What happens? It looks like that may be the case, as slowly over time the water is starting to go down. Here's the West Coast. Look at that. Appalachia barely survives, and I'm not convinced I'm in the part of Appalachia that would. Take a look at the West Coast. Seemingly unaffected. Higher elevation in the Rockies, but California is gone. California's flooded. LA, goodbye. Makes sense. We want to live near areas. We want to live. Where do you want to be? Oh boy. The new South Pole. Take a look at that. Just off the coast of, what is that like? Well, let's just say South America, because I don't know which country specifically, but around Chile, Colombia, etc. The new South Pole. Brazil. Hey, it looks like Rio. Well, Rio's gone. Check this out. There goes Europe. Europe's gone. The UK will get sloshed over, but part of it might survive. Looks like Spain will be okay. That's good news. It's pretty wild. If this actually happens, he says...
I think Israel will be okay.
It's 2040s.
Simulation.
There's Australia and... Wow. Looks like Australia is just gone. Parts of the outback survive, get a lot wetter. And here's an interesting thought, too.
Okay.
A lot of areas on the planet that are just sand and desert.
Yeah.
If this were to happen...
Where that water is, there's not a lot of population over there. Most of the people are over here, I believe, on this side.
It's going to shift moisture patterns around and change where life emerges and can sustain itself. Oh boy. Where are we at? Japan? The Aleutians? Look at that. Is that Alaska getting largely wiped out? Wow. No, it's partial.
I don't know if there'll be a flood like this. I mean, this is the speculation from the models, but God said he wouldn't destroy the earth with the flood again. Next time it'd be by fire. So I don't know, but I mean, this is where the science is leading. So it's interesting to keep it in mind, because it does. The one thing he doesn't illustrate in here is the actual rotating of the Earth. We need to get a simulation of that. We need to get an actual official rolling of the North Pole down to the equator, so that you can understand, so that you can easily visualize that mountains are going to be moved out of their place. If you're looking at the sky, it's going to look like it's rolling up like a scroll.
Largely okay. I wonder if the Aleutians will make it. Here's the U.S. again. So it looks like, I gotta be honest, I might be. I wish there was a way to tilt this so I can look at West Virginia's Eastern Panhandle and see if we're going to be okay. We're not in a flood zone or anything like that. We are elevated to a certain degree.
Well, this is what he's actually looking at. I'm not able to put that in. There you go. This is what he's actually looking at. I'll put these links in the description tomorrow. I actually have a better one here. This flood map. This is another one that Ben Davidson had posted a while ago in his Facebook group. This one you can actually zoom in and out on. This one he says is slightly less accurate because it's just going based on the water height, elevation, height, water level set at 400 meters. But it's in essence the same kind of simulation that you saw there, to where the water's going to rise. But by and large, I don't know, Israel might be toast. Maybe not. Australia. Just, this is a little bit different in this one. This is the safe zone, which is largely unpopulated. It's over here that's really where the populations are. Sydney, Melbourne. So the place to be in the United States, so this is fairly accurate from all the models, is the place to be in the United States is like right here. Like Idaho, Montana, Colorado. This is why the DUMBs are built in Colorado. because it's kind of like in the high point. Utah, California's toast. If you're over here on the west coast, if you're too close to the coast, you're probably going to be toast, but maybe a little bit inland. Where's that Oregon that I'm pointing out? Yeah, that's Oregon. Yep. But yeah, I mean, like, so that seems to be about where we are. You know what I mean? So it's like when we come back and we look at this timeline, this could be a viable timeline where you've got February, February 17th, 2026. There's an eclipse on that day, and it matches the pattern of seal number 3. So it's the same distance away from October 14th. And then shortly after that, you could have seal number 6, which could be the magnetic pole shift, which Ben Davidson is still kind of placing it at 2040, the year 2040. So, but he has been constantly refining his estimate, saying that the chances of it. I should find that video when he was on the show. When he was on the show, he was saying 2040 to 2050. But he has since come out and said that he had failed to include certain calculations in that estimate. And he reduced it to where it was more like 2030 to 2040, and he's still kind of putting it at 2040. But even since then, he said, the speed is moving and information is changing so fast that he would not be surprised if it could happen at any time. And he says it's like, there's like a 5 or 10% chance that it would happen before 2030. But based on what we're looking at here, like with the seals, so lining up with God's events, it seems like something's going to happen here, February 17th, 2026. And then the next possible date could be, something could happen on the same year, August 12th, 2026. There's another eclipse, and this one mirrors seal number 2. So, and then when do we have the 2 witnesses? When's the end of the 1,260 days? We've got that at, I think it's July 3rd, 2028. So I don't know why there's such, see, this is where, so I've got 2 timelines here that we're looking at. This is the one that I lean towards being most symmetrical because it goes based on the anchor point. But you got to admit that the symmetry of this one is very interesting, that you've got these eclipses which mirror these eclipses. With seal number 7 opening up in, opening up here in 2027, October 2nd, 2027. So interesting things, guys. I mean, like, stuff is happening. One thing's for sure is I'm pretty sure Donald Trump and Elon Musk are the 2 witnesses. With all of that being said, I'm pretty sure Donald Trump and Elon Musk are the 2 witnesses. I don't know when the end of their 1,260 days is. It could be that we're supposed to count from here. If we count from October 14th, 2023, then that puts you close to here, sometime in 2027. I don't know how that fits. So definitely things to keep calculating and trying to figure out. It's like we have all these puzzle pieces. We're still trying to put them together. We're still trying to put them in place so that we can see the full picture. But with 3i Atlas, with the scientific data that's coming out, I mean, like, you can definitely see that fear is coming on the whole world as people see these things coming on the whole earth. There's a chance of, alien life coming with 3i Atlas, and then there's the chance of the world being flooded again like it was in the days of Noah. And then you've got all of these biblical signs which have come to pass that are pointing to being in the end times. I mean, very much living in the book of Revelation. So times are interesting, and it's not a time to be afraid. I'm not afraid. You shouldn't be afraid. Jesus warned us about these things. He told us ahead of time so that when these things begin to occur, you will believe. And that's the whole point. So keep your oil full in your lamp, because the Lord might be delayed. We don't know exactly when he's going to come. It could be as early as, the end of, it could be in August 2026. It could be July 3rd, 2028. I mean, like, we've got options, and as they arrive, if nothing happens, then, then we'll have to continue looking forward. But that's the game that we're playing. This is a game of observation. We just don't know. This is probably why he said no man knows the day or hour. He probably doesn't know himself. Certain things have to take place. But the one thing that we do know is things are happening the way he said they would happen. And that should cause you to believe. Anybody got any questions before we go? Yeah. Oh, stop blaming. Yeah, I stopped looking for the rapture, lion dog. Well, it was kind of one of the things that triggered me starting a channel is I had kept looking for it, and it got to the point where it's like, oh, it has to be on this particular day, and I did that a couple of times. And my wife said, "You need new friends," so I started a YouTube channel. You are my new friends. So here we are today. We're still looking for it, and it is exhausting. It's fun. It's really fulfilling to see these things come to pass, but it really is exhausting. I cannot wait until Jesus returns. Once we see him as he is, when the dead in Christ, when the resurrection happens, we're going to know a lot more about life and creation and, good and evil and God and his son and, what's next for us. There's so many things to look forward to. And just, people who aren't aware of the scripture and aren't paying attention to this, I can understand why why people could be afraid and why people could get tired. It's very trying to your patience. But I think we have good information here on Two Witnesses Live. So you stick around here. We're not making audacious claims about talking to angels and having dreams and stuff like that. We're just evaluating data. We're Bereans searching the scriptures, whether these things are so. We're more like Daniel, who he was searching the scripture to understand when things were going to happen. That's a thing. That's what he did. Go look up Daniel. It says that he searched the books for answers on, prophetic fulfillment. That's what we're doing. We're searching the scripture for prophetic fulfillment. And we just happen to live during a period of time where these things are happening. So many things are happening. And all of it's pointing to Christ coming back. So keep your lamps full, keep those lamps trimmed, and be ready to go at a moment's notice, I guess. So with that, I'm going to let you guys go. We'll be back here tomorrow at 5:30. Tomorrow will also be a short day, probably less than an hour, because we're going to be visiting another church tomorrow evening. So I look forward to seeing you guys then. Be here at 5:30 Western time, 8:30 Eastern time. In the meantime, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and comment. God bless you guys. Shalom, shalom.